I hadn't seen my father in 15 years. He left when I was 9. No goodbye, no letter, no explanation, just gone. One night he tucked me in, told me to be strong for Mom, and by morning his closet was empty. My mom didn't talk about him much after that. She just shut down. Worked long shifts, came home late, and tried to smile through the exhaustion. I learned early that life doesn't hand you closure, you build it yourself. By the time I was 24, I was doing fine. I'd started my own tech startup. Nothing huge, but enough to pay the bills and give my mom a decent life. For the first time, it felt like we were finally free from the shadow he left behind. Then one evening I got a knock on the door. When I opened it, I saw him standing there, gray hair, wrinkled face, holding a cheap leather bag like he'd been traveling for miles. "Hey son," he said, forcing a smile. My stomach dropped. I didn't know whether to slam the door or punch him. "Do I know you?" I said flatly. He laughed nervously. "Yeah, I probably deserve that. I know I've been gone a long time. But I wanted to see you. See how you turned out." I didn't say anything. Just stared. The silence stretched. He looked smaller than I remembered, not the towering man I once feared. Finally I stepped aside. "You've got 5 minutes." He came in, glanced around my apartment, and nodded like he was proud. "You've done well for yourself," he said. "I always knew you'd make it." That sentence made my jaw clench. He always knew. Where was he when Mom was crying at night because the rent was overdue? When I was fixing old laptops in my room just to afford gas money? He started talking about how hard life had been for him. Sleeping in his car, working odd jobs, trying to find peace. It was all excuses. Then came the twist. "I heard about your company," he said. "I've been struggling lately, and I was wondering if you could help me out. Maybe give me a small position? Anything really?" There it was. The real reason he came. I smiled. "Of course, Dad. I'll see what I can do." He looked relieved, almost teary. And right then, in that moment, I decided he was going to pay for every tear my mom shed, every birthday he missed, every night I went to bed wondering why I wasn't good enough. A week later he started working for me, just small stuff like handling deliveries and inventory. I made sure to treat him kindly, to act like I'd forgiven him. But inside I was watching, observing, learning his weaknesses. He bragged to everyone that his son was giving him a second chance. Played the victim. Said life had just been unfair. The team felt sorry for him. Some even liked him. But I knew who he really was, a selfish man who always took more than he gave. One day I caught him in the office late at night, going through my desk drawers. When I walked in, he froze, pretending to look for a pen. "Long way to find a pen, huh?" I said. He laughed awkwardly. "Just needed to sign something." I let it slide for now, because I wanted him to think I trusted him. Over the next few weeks, I quietly set things up. I gave him access to some fake documents, a side project that looked like $1 million idea but was nothing more than a decoy. It was bait. And I knew he'd take it. A few nights later, my phone buzzed, a transfer alert. Someone had downloaded the files to an external drive. Guess who it was? My father. I watched from my car as he snuck out of the office, clutching the drive like it was his golden ticket. He didn't even look guilty. That was the moment I realized he hadn't changed at all. He didn't come back for me. He came back for what I built. But I didn't stop him. Not yet. Because this time, I was the one writing the ending. When I saw that security footage, him sneaking out with the flash drive, I didn't even get angry. No yelling. No confrontation. Just a quiet, cold satisfaction. Because that was exactly what I'd been waiting for. He'd fallen for it. 2 days later, he stopped showing up for work. Didn't answer calls, didn't respond to emails. My assistant said he probably needed rest. Yeah, sure. Rest. By the end of the week, I saw his name pop up on LinkedIn, a brand new startup. A breakthrough AI-driven logistics system. My fake project. He'd even given interviews about how he developed it with his years of experience. It was so absurd I almost laughed. I didn't report him. I didn't block him. I just watched. Because I knew how that fake project worked, or rather didn't work. The data was incomplete. The algorithm was built to fail once it scaled beyond a small test. It would look perfect at first, then start eating itself alive. Still, he managed to get investors. Somehow, he talked a few naive angels into giving him $500,000. Seeing his smug face on local tech blogs made my blood boil, but I stayed quiet. Revenge isn't about noise. It's about timing. Mom asked me about him once. "He called," she said quietly. "He told me you two were working together again. Is that true?" I hesitated. Then just said, something like that. She nodded, but there was this pain in her eyes, like she wanted to believe people could change even when she knew they couldn't. 3 months passed. His company, Novagrid Systems, started making waves. He even gave a speech at a startup event, talking about redemption, about building a legacy. The crowd clapped like he was some kind of hero. And I'll admit, for a moment, doubt crept in. Maybe he really had changed. Maybe I was the one holding on to old scars. But then one night I got an email. Subject: Urgent Project Failure Reports. From Novagrid Support. Attached were screenshots, system logs, desperate messages from his developers. Everything was crashing. Data losses, system freezes, unrecoverable errors. Exactly how I designed it. He had no idea the code he stole was self-sabotaging. I clicked through the messages slowly, sipping my coffee. It was poetic, watching the house of lies collapse from the inside. Still, I didn't move. Not yet. I wanted to see how far he'd fall before I made my next move. A week later I got a call. Unknown number. I answered anyway. Hey son, his voice cracked. I think I messed up. I almost smiled. You think? There's something wrong with the system, he said, panicking. Everything was working fine and now it's breaking apart. I need your help. I leaned back, staring out the window at the city lights. Funny how life circles back. Why me? I asked. You're the genius who built it, right? There was silence. Then quietly, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. I just thought maybe we could do something good together. I didn't mean to steal from you. For a second I almost believed him. Almost. But then I remembered 9-year-old me standing in an empty doorway, wondering why my dad didn't love us enough to stay. That memory hit harder than anything. So I just said, you'll figure it out, and hung up. Over the next few days his company completely imploded. Investors pulled out. Developers quit. And the tech community, the same one that once praised him, turned on him overnight. He tried to reach me again. Emails. Calls. Even showed up outside my office once. I didn't answer. Instead, I sent him a message from an anonymous account. Some lessons take time to learn. You taught me that when you left. Now I'm just returning the favor. He never replied. But I know he read it, probably 100 times. That night, for the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. Not happiness. Just silence. But revenge has a funny way of leaving echoes. Because a few days later I found out he'd been hospitalized, heart problems, stress, who knows. Mom called me in tears. He's asking to see you, she said. I didn't know what to say. For years I wanted this, for him to understand pain. To finally lose what he took from us. And now that he had, it didn't feel like victory anymore. It felt empty. That night I sat alone in my office watching the blinking cursor on my screen. A new project file was open, real this time, no traps, no lies. And I wondered, was I really better than him? Because maybe revenge wasn't about justice anymore. Maybe it was just another way to keep the past alive. I didn't plan on going to the hospital. But something about Mom's voice that night, tired, broken, made me get in the car. It was raining hard enough to make the wipers squeal. The city lights bled into streaks on the glass, like the world itself didn't know where to focus anymore. When I walked into his room I barely recognized him. The man who once seemed larger than life, confident, untouchable, was now just a pale figure tangled in wires and machines. His eyes fluttered open when he heard me. You came? He whispered. I didn't answer. I just stood there, hands in my pockets, staring at the heart monitor's steady blip. He smiled weakly. You always were stubborn. A nurse adjusted something and quietly slipped out, leaving us alone. For a moment, all I heard was the hum of the oxygen machine. He took a slow breath. I know what you did. My heart froze for a second. What are you talking about? I said, trying to sound calm. He gave a faint chuckle. The code. The system. I realized it wasn't an accident. I didn't move. He looked at me with something I hadn't seen in years, clarity. You got your revenge, he said. And you did it better than I ever could have imagined. I stayed silent. Then he said something I didn't expect. I'm proud of you. That hit harder than anything else he could have said. You're proud? I snapped. You stole from me. You left us. You destroyed everything, and now you're proud. He coughed, grimaced, but his voice stayed calm. Because you didn't give up. You became what I never had the strength to be. Ruthless. Focused. Unforgiving. I took a step closer, my jaw tight. You think that's a compliment? It's survival, he said simply. You learned it from me. I wanted to scream, to tear out the wires, to make him feel something, anything. Instead, I just stood there shaking. He looked up at me. You always thought revenge would fix it. But you're wrong. I frowned. What's that supposed to mean? He smiled again, weak but certain. Revenge keeps you close to the person you hate. Closer than love ever could. It makes you him. I didn't want to hear it. He turned his head toward the window. When I'm gone, you'll still see me. In your work. In your anger. Every time you win, you'll hear my voice. That's the real punishment. Something in my chest twisted. I stepped back, my hands trembling. You're trying to make this about you again. No, he said softly. I'm making it about you. Because I see myself in you, son. And that's what scares me the most. His breathing grew heavier. The monitor beeped faster. I froze, staring at the numbers climbing, then slowing, then climbing again. Hey, I started, but he raised a weak hand. Don't call anyone, he whispered. Just stay. For a moment I did. Then he looked straight into my eyes and said the last words I'll ever hear from him. Congratulations, you finally won. And then the line went flat. Just like that. No dramatic gasp, no final tear. Just silence. I stood there for a long time, staring at the lifeless shape of the man I'd hated for most of my life. I thought I'd feel relief. Freedom. Closure. But all I felt was this hollow, echoing nothingness. The kind of silence that eats you from the inside. When the nurses rushed in, I stepped aside, numb. Mom arrived minutes later, sobbing, asking if he said anything. I lied. He just fell asleep. She hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. He was trying to fix things, she said through tears. He really was. I didn't answer. A week later I was back at the office. Everyone thought I'd taken a break to grieve. But there was no grief. Just a strange kind of stillness. I opened a folder on my computer labeled New Project. Inside were pages of code, diagrams, and one file named Legacy. It wasn't mine. It wasn't his either. It was something in between. I hovered over the delete button for a long time. Then I opened it. The code was cleaner than I remembered. Efficient. Elegant. There were even lines I didn't write. Small changes he'd made before everything collapsed. Improvements, actually. And for the first time I realized something. He didn't steal my work to get rich. He stole it to feel close to me. That thought cut deeper than any betrayal ever could. A month passed. His company's name vanished from headlines. The world forgot him quickly, as it always does. But me? I couldn't forget. Because every time I sat down to work, I saw his reflection in the glass. Every time I succeeded, I heard his voice saying, "You finally won." And one night, while I was working late, my screen froze. A system alert popped up, something I'd never seen before. Encrypted message received. From unknown source. Subject, legacy access code. My heart stopped. It was his handwriting, scanned and embedded. The message read, "You can destroy what I built, or you can finish what I started. Either way, we end together." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I entered the code. The system rebooted and a new program appeared, his final version of my project perfected. It ran flawlessly. And in that moment I realized what he meant. I'd spent years trying to erase him. But the only way to truly win was to become him. Now the world knows my name. The company is thriving. People call me the visionary who rebuilt what others destroyed. But every night when I walk past the dark windows of my office, I see his reflection smiling back at me. Not haunting me, mocking me. Because in the end he was right. I didn't just get revenge. I became the very man I swore I'd never forgive. And maybe that was his plan all along.